All right, this is going to be my first talking head type video for my vlog, but I've had a lot of questions and I probably should have prefaced a lot of the information in my first vlog with this rifle, but I really didn't. It didn't go where I intended it to, so I guess I couldn't have known what I know now. But first of all, I got asked if load development was usually this difficult by a viewer, and the answer is that depends, but usually no. I will say that no matter what, whether it be our beloved 300 Win Mag with a H1000 215 combo, or the 6.5 PRC with a 156 Berger H1000, or even a 147 ELDM, that a lot of rifles do like those combinations. It doesn't mean that yours is going to. Every once in a while you just get a problem child and it doesn't like that combo and you got to move to a different combo. Having said that, the main reason why I built this WSM and the last WSM was ultimately to see what it was capable of configured as a hunting rifle with a proper throat. So the first one did exactly what I was hoping it would do. It shot Reloader 26 very well. It was over 2,900 foot per second, which is right in line with where my accuracy nodes were on all of my 300 Win Mags. It stayed in tune longer than my bigger cartridges, and I'll come back to that here in a second. It essentially did everything that I wanted it to do. However, I wanted a little bit different rifle configuration. So I had an opportunity to build this rifle using an Altair Arms stock and a Bat Vampire for the purpose of doing a review on this Bat Vampire. And so this is pretty close to what I would consider a perfect configuration. So I wanted to see what it would do. The other piece of that puzzle is I am going to be putting together a cartridge guide for the 300 WSM in setups like I just talked about. Now, there's a lot of information out there for short action WSM, so guys that are shooting those lighter bullets in short actions, which I don't agree with. And Ryan Avery's got a 300 WSM that he built on a short action, but it's still, he's shooting bigger bullets, and I think it's a little bit more appropriate for our use. But I do know a lot of guys are out there shooting 300 WSMs with 150 grain, 165 grain bullets, and so that is not usable for me. If I was going to shoot those bullets, I would drop down to a 6.5 or a 7 millimeter, and we can talk about those in separate videos, or you can ask me questions about that on the forum. But probably the 200 grain bullets is as low as I would want to go, and the 220X bullet would be okay in a short action and probably do most of what we could get out of that combination. But other than that, on long actions with the proper throat in hunting configurations, there's not a lot of information. Now, there is tons of information for the bench rest guys, 1,000-yard bench rest guys, and F-class guys, but they're using 30 and 32, 34-inch barrels, so that data doesn't really help us out with what these things are capable of. So that's why ultimately I started to build these two. Now, this one shot Reloader 26, that first combo, it's shooting it about a half-minute average at long distance. I'm not talking about 100-yard groups. Guys get hung up on 100-yard groups, and I couldn't care less. We need it to shoot accurately at 600, 700, 800 yards. It needs to be repeatable. It needs to be consistent. And that gun is shooting right at half-minute. It's shot a couple smoker groups, and it's shot a couple groups in the 6 to 7 tenths of a minute. And it's in 7-inch groups at 1,000 yards from a hunting rifle, still going to kill game as long as you can read the wind. But I know that the cartridge is capable of better, and I know this rifle is capable of better. So I moved on to Reloader 23. The F-class guys and the bench rest guys are using Reloader 23 because it yields typically a little bit more speed than H4350. Well, it shot some really, really smoker groups, but still it's averaging right under half minute. It's got some flyers that I can't explain. It'll shoot it, I mean, it shot a half-inch group at 565 yards, but then it'll shoot a 7-inch group at 1,000 yards every once in a while. So those would have worked for hunting loads, but I knew the gun could do better, and like I said, I really wanted to collect data and have a full picture of what this is capable of in a hunting rifle setup. So I moved over to H4350, which is the darling combo for the guys that are winning in F-class and bench rest with this cartridge. So a 215 Berger H4350 210M, and did a couple pressure tests, or did a pressure test with it, and then did some ladders with it. There were 2 nodes. There was one at what ended up being 2785 foot per second average, and there's one up between 2840 and 2850. The 2840 to the 2850 is a little bit more accurate, I think, than the Reloader 23 and 26 loads. You know, the speed isn't far behind the Reloader 26 load, but it is right in line with the Reloader 23. It's on the, I don't have any pressure signs, but it's been super cold during load development, and I do feel that it's probably very close to pressure and may be an issue when it warms up. But to me, it's really irrelevant, because at 2785, at that velocity node, I am shooting well under half minute consistently. As a matter of fact, it has not shot a group over right about 1/3 of a minute out to 800 yards, which currently is as long as I can shoot. It's actually got a 3-shot group at 800 yards that had 0 vertical, and it was in windy conditions. The wind had picked up, and I missed the wind call. You saw that in that video. I missed the wind call, and it moved over roughly 2 minutes. There was like a 1 or 2 mile an hour wind from the 11 o'clock, and that's what the weatherman was calling for. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it shifted to about a 5 to 10 out of my 3 o'clock. And I didn't catch it, and I didn't make an adjustment, but I did get them on the edge of my target backer, so we got to see that group. And that's where the gun's shooting. It's shooting under 1/3 of a minute out at 800 yards, which is impressive to me from this setup. The gun weighs, like you see it, just over 9 pounds, and it's got a 26-inch barrel. It's actually a little bit less than 26, about 25.5-inch finished barrel. So I'm gonna run 2785 foot per second average velocity with the 215 Berger H4350, which is a super stable powder from a 25-inch barrel. It's gonna have a little bit less recoil, but I am gonna give up a little bit of velocity on the back end. You know, out at 1,000 yards, it's gonna start getting right in that Berger threshold for minimum velocity of expansion, and energy is still gonna be fine for game up to elk size, but that's here in Kansas. As I go out west, those numbers are going to go up a little bit, and I haven't run those numbers like 4,000, 5,000 feet. I haven't run those numbers, but ultimately, I don't see myself taking a lot of shots at 1,000 yards. I say my average shot's right in that 600 to 650, but I've killed an elk at 800 yards, and you never know. I like to practice because I want to be able to take advantage of all the opportunities afforded to me. So I think I covered everything that people may have been asking. I'll think about that for a second as we talk through this. So we will have a review on this Bat Vampire action. I am absolutely in love with this thing. I love everything about it. It's very smooth. It's lightweight. It's got an integral rail, which I have gotten to the point where I almost consider that a necessity, just because I've had so many problems with rails coming loose, and they never happen at an opportune time. It's got a flat bottom, which I think is better for bedding, and there is a lot of anecdotal evidence out there that suggests that aluminum actions are capable of agging better, and that means that they are capable of shooting more consistent small groups. Not that a steel action can't shoot as small, but these just shoot smaller more often. You can't prove it either way, but there's a lot of information. The Kelbley Panda is a prime example, which is another one of my favorite actions. Altera Arms carbon stock. I love this stock. I've had, I think, 3 of them. We have a review. I'll try to remember to throw that in the link, that link in the description below. But I love this stock. It is an awesome compromise here in the grip, and I don't even know. The more I shoot it, the less I think it's even a compromise. If the grip angle doesn't work for you, or the distance from the triggers too far, you just choke a little bit up and make some adjustments and practice at that, and you get used to it. And it's a negative comb. It's got a good drop at the toe. Everything about it I love. And in this, I love the way this looks. I just think, and that's very subjective, but I just think it looks beautiful. But I love this rifle. I'll give up a little bit of performance to have the consistency. I guess let's go ahead and talk about that. So what I'm finding, and I anticipated this, and I don't really think it should be a surprise, but some people still want to argue or don't understand. The WSM case just stays in tune longer. Not only will it ag smaller than those bigger cartridges like the 300 Win Mag, the 300 PRC, and the 30 Nosler in calm conditions, but it's not, the change in the throat is not happening as fast as those cartridges with more powder. It's not moving as much. It's not getting as rough as quick. I mean, this thing at 300 rounds looks like a throat does in those other cartridges around 100. It's going to get a lot longer barrel life. That's not something I consider super important, but when you're talking about all the time and effort involved in doing load development, figuring out drops, and getting comfortable with the rifle, it does add up. Even if you could shoot another 500 rounds, it does add up. It saves you a little bit time. So basically, you could get away with 2 of these barrels, where it might take 3 of the others. So that's a big deal. And I just think it's easier to learn the things that we really need to be focusing on, like reading the wind and shooting distances at unknown distances, and getting not hitting a steel plate that everyone likes to brag about, but actually hitting the orange dot on that steel plate, which equates to hitting the vitals on the animals that you're shooting. I think when a rifle is more accurate and stays in tune longer, and you don't have to fight whether or not it's in tune, then it's easier to focus on those skills that you really should be focusing on, instead of out there trying to develop loads all the time or tweak loads or whatever. And the 300 WSM, in my experience, is one of the cartridges that stays in tune the longest. You don't have to tweak it. You can argue with it all day. I've seen it very consistently. One of my favorite cartridges is still the 30 Nosler, and it's always going to be one of my favorite cartridges, but the fact is it just won't stay in tune as long as this will. I love the performance. They're very accurate when they're in tune. In my experience, they've had very wide tune windows, but they just don't stay in tune as long. But it is something to consider. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is I heard somebody again the other day talking about how overhyped the 300 WSM is. Well, first of all, I don't agree with that. And second of all, what I'm doing here has nothing to do with the hype. The hype was when Winchester made it, that it would give you 300 Win Mag performance from a short action. I do think that's total nonsense for the PG-13 ratings. It's total nonsense. You're not, in a short action, you're already hindering the cartridge, so it's not going to do that. But that's not why I built this. I built it to have that consistency, the accuracy, the smaller ags over those bigger cartridges. I suspected it would do it. That's why those guys are winning in bench rests with it. And it does do it. I know I've had 2 of these barrels. I've had 3 300 Win Mags. I've had 4 300 PRCs, I think, and 4 30 Noslers. and they shoot small. I can get them tuned small, but they just don't ag as small as this. That means if I took 100 groups, this is going to have a smaller average when they're all tuned like they need to be. So overhyped, 300 WSM's overhyped. I don't think it's even hyped anymore, but I'm not, this 300 WSM is not that 300 WSM. This is not a SAAMI WSM. The SAAMI spec, I think, is 2850 overall length, and it's smaller bullets. This is 3.250 with the 215, using obviously larger bullets. So I don't look at what SAAMI's doing. I don't look at what Winchester was trying to sell to people, 20 years ago. I look at the case. What does the case do? What does the case give me? What's it capable of? What does it offer me? What are the pros? What are the cons? And in this case, no pun intended, it gives me almost all the performance that I want. It gives me all of the performance we really need, but it's just more consistent. And that's what I'm looking at. The other issue is I keep hearing people talk about how these don't feed, and I unfortunately left my ammo at home because I was actually going to set the final 0 on this today. I left my ammo at home, or I would show you, but this thing feeds just as good as any long action cartridge I've ever had, and all of my WSMs have. I've had a 7 WSM, a 270 WSM, a different 300 WSM, this 300 WSM. I've had several 6.5 PRCs, a 6.5 SAUM, all on long actions, and absolutely none of them had any problem whatsoever feeding when you tuned the magazine box correctly, which they all do. I've had 30 Noslers, 300 Win Mags that didn't feed right when I put them together or right when I got them back from the gunsmith, and you have to tweak the feed rails or the magazine box rails or the follower a little bit. Some are easier than others, but this one actually tuned right away. I got this from the guys at BAT and checked the feeding. It is very, very smooth. I don't know what to say to those people that are having problems or think they're having problems with long actions feeding short cartridges, but I don't see it. Maybe if you're shooting it like at a 2.850 length, it might be problematic for long action, but if you're shooting at that length, I really don't know why you would choose a long action. I would probably go with a medium, now that we're getting lots of options for those medium length, those 3.20 inch lengths. But no feeding problems here, no problems whatsoever. If I have a lot of questions following this wrap up of this project, then I might do another video, but I think I answered all of the questions that I've gotten during this mini vlog series on this rifle. So we'll move on to the next rifle, and I've got tons of things that I'm going to talk about. I don't know if I'll do them in a vlog style, or we'll just do like a typical video on YouTube. But we've got a vlog thread on the forum. Head on over there, ask me any questions, and I'll try to get those answered. But I appreciate you following along with the vlogs. I've had some pretty good feedback from them, so I think I'll continue to do them for a little bit longer. Appreciate you watching. Have a great day.